Keir Starmer just made the biggest political mistake of his career, and it was caught on camera. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to stop the boats. But look where we are today. That was Nigel Farage live unflinching, and about to expose something the establishment doesn't want you to see. What happened at Labour's 2025 conference wasn't just embarrassing, it was a masterclass in political self-destruction. And if you want a full story the mainstream media won't tell you, hit subscribe right now because this gets darker. Liverpool, September 2025. Labour's party conference was supposed to be their victory lap. Starmer as Prime Minister. Red banners everywhere, polished speeches, a carefully orchestrated show of strength. Instead, Britain watched a meltdown in real time. The conference hall was packed. Ministers took turns at the podium, promising a brighter future. But outside those walls, the country was falling apart. Energy bills up 12% this quarter. Small boats still arriving at Dover every single night. High streets across Britain dying. Public services on life support. And what did Labour spend their entire conference talking about? Not solutions, not policies, not the cost of living crisis crushing working families. They talked about Nigel Farage. Think about that for a second. You're the governing party. You have real power, real resources, the ability to actually change things. And you spend your biggest event of the year obsessed with the opposition. Not just any opposition. A party that doesn't hold a single seat in Parliament. Labour mentioned Farage's name more than they mentioned the NHS. More than the economy, more than housing, more than education. Like moths circling a flame. They couldn't help themselves. Every speech, every panel, every interview somehow looped back to Reform UK. Then Keir Starmer took the stage for his keynote address. This was his moment. The Prime Minister addressing his party, the chance to set the agenda, inspire confidence, lay out a vision for Britain's future. He chose war instead. Starmer didn't just criticize Reform UK's immigration policies. He didn't just disagree with them. He called them racist and immoral. He said, and Nigel Farage doesn't believe in Britain. Doesn't even like Britain. Pause on that. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom just accused millions of Reform voters of being racist. Not in a private conversation, not in a heated moment off camera on stage in his keynote speech with journalists from around the world watching. The reaction was instant. Within 2 hours, Reform UK's membership website crashed from the surge in applications. Farage's social media exploded with messages of support. Twitter, X, lit up with ordinary Brits who'd never considered voting Reform suddenly asking questions. Because here's what Starmer fundamentally doesn't understand. When you call people racist for wanting secure borders, they don't apologize and change their minds. They get angry. They dig in, and they start looking for alternatives. Starmer thought he was isolating Farage. Instead, he drove thousands of voters straight into Reform's arms. But Labour wasn't finished yet. Then came David Lammy, Britain's Foreign Secretary, the Deputy Prime Minister, the man representing the nation on the global stage, someone who, above all, should understand the gravity of words in international diplomacy. Yet he accused Nigel Farage of once flirting with Hitler Youth ideology. Hitler Youth. Not a policy disagreement. Not a philosophical critique. Not even a harsh but defensible comparison. A direct link to Nazi Germany, one of the darkest chapters in human history. The room fell silent. Even Labour loyalists shifted uncomfortably. Journalists began fact-checking in real time. Social media erupted like wildfire. Farage denied it instantly, calling it a desperate smear from desperate men. Even outlets sympathetic to Labour raised eyebrows. Where was the proof? What was Lammy talking about? Within 24 hours, Lammy quietly backed down. No press conference. No formal apology. Just a buried clarification in a vague statement about context. But the damage was already done. Not to Farage, but to Labour. Because when you throw out an accusation that explosive and can't defend it, you end up looking either incompetent or dishonest. And neither is a good look for a foreign secretary. Here's where it gets fascinating. When Reform UK pushed back, when they demanded evidence and accountability, Labour MPs laughed. They mocked them. They called them snowflakes, saying they couldn't handle the heat of political debate. Think about that. The same Labour Party that demands apologies for every microaggression suddenly mocking others for being too sensitive. The same movement that invented safe spaces and trigger warnings now telling opponents to toughen up. The same politicians who scream dangerous rhetoric at every opportunity suddenly wielding it as a weapon. The hypocrisy was impossible to ignore. Even neutral commentators called it out. The double standard was glaring. While Labour threw insults, Reform UK countered with actual policy. They focused on something most voters had never even heard of, indefinite leave to remain or ILR. It sounds dull, bureaucratic, technical. But the truth behind it is exactly what Labour didn't want discussed. 1 in 6 people currently receiving universal credit in Britain are non-citizens holding ILR status. That's taxpayer money, your money, going to individuals who have no citizenship duties. They don't serve on juries. They don't swear allegiance to the nation. They don't pay the naturalization fees real citizens must pay. Yet they receive almost all the same benefits with none of the obligations. Reform said, that system needs review. Tighten the requirements. Stable employment. English language proficiency. Civic integration. Perfectly reasonable proposals, the kind of debate most nations can have without outrage. Labour's response? Call them racist. Again. See the pattern? Problem raised. Evidence presented. Solution proposed. Smear deployed. Problem ignored. Starmer tried to get clever during the conference. He and his comms team workshopped a slogan, refined it, rehearsed it, and unveiled it with confidence. Farage votes. The strategy sounded clever in theory. Link Farage to Brexit, link Brexit to the migrant boat crisis, and make it stick. Make it viral. That was the goal, to turn Farage's own name into a liability. But it backfired spectacularly. Within hours, Farage votes was trending across social media. Not as Labour intended, but as a meme, a punchline, living proof of how hopelessly out of touch this government has become. Because anyone with eyes can see the truth, the small boats crisis didn't begin with Brexit. It began with decades of failure, from both Labour and Conservative governments alike. Laws that make deportations nearly impossible. Courts that block every attempt at enforcement. A system deliberately built to collapse under its own weight. Voters aren't stupid. They can see it with their own eyes. They can read the numbers for themselves. And they know that blaming one man for a decades-old disaster is an insult to their intelligence. Farage votes didn't damage Reform UK. It damaged Labour. It made them look petty, desperate, dishonest. Now, let's talk about who's really suffering from all this. Not the politicians. Not the party aides. Not the media elites sitting comfortably in London studios. It's the single mother in Sunderland, choosing between heating her home and feeding her kids. It's the small business owner in Birmingham, drowning in taxes and red tape just to keep the lights on. It's the pensioner in Blackpool, watching their neighborhood change overnight, without anyone asking what they think. It's the young couple in Manchester, priced out of home ownership forever, wondering if they'll ever have the stability their parents once took for granted. These people aren't asking for miracles. They're not demanding the impossible. They just want honesty, competence, someone who takes their worries seriously instead of branding them bigots for noticing what's happening around them. They want leaders who solve problems, not manage headlines. And the numbers? They tell a story Labour can't spin away. Starmer's personal approval rating has collapsed, down 18 points since taking office, barely a year and a half ago. The honeymoon's over. The shine is gone. Trust in Labour's economic plan now sits at 34%, and that includes their own supporters. Meanwhile, Reform UK is polling at levels that would hand them over 90 seats if an election were held today. Not fringe estimates. Not wishful thinking. Verified data from mainstream pollsters. 3 years ago, Nigel Farage was written off, a relic, finished, forgotten. Reform UK was dismissed as a protest movement, destined to fade like UKIP before it. But today, they're reshaping British politics, setting the agenda, forcing debates the establishment tried to bury for decades. And here's what this entire conference exposed, the truth about British democracy in 2025. Labour has a spreadsheet for everything. Rachel Reeves waves her fully costed plans like they're magic spells that can fix a nation. Ministers boast of data-driven policies and evidence-based governance. But spreadsheets don't lower energy bills. Graphs don't stop illegal immigration. PowerPoint slides don't restore safety to Britain's streets, revive dying high streets, or give young people hope again. At some point, theory must collide with reality. Promises must become results. And when they don't, people stop believing. Because history teaches one brutal, undeniable truth. Lesson. When political elites ignore the public for too long, the public eventually forces change upon them. It happened with Brexit. Decades of dismissing real concerns about sovereignty and immigration, branding voters as ignorant, racist, backwards, and then shock and outrage when those same voters dared to vote leave. It's happening again, not just in Britain, but across Europe. Populist movements are rising in France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands. Governments are falling. Establishments are panicking. And right now, it's happening here in real time. Labour thought they could manage it, control the narrative, contain the threat, keep the system running on their terms. But every smear makes Farage look stronger. Every insult hardens his base. Every desperate attack proves his central argument that the establishment fears truth more than anything else. Here's the brutal irony at the heart of all this. Labour spent years warning that Brexit was a disaster, that borders couldn't truly be controlled, that British voters made a foolish, irreversible mistake driven by lies and xenophobia. And now, Keir Starmer stands at the podium, promising to secure borders and control immigration properly. So which is it? Were Brexiteers right all along? Or is Starmer lying now? He can't have it both ways. But he's trying anyway. And the voters? They see straight through him. This goes far beyond party lines or Westminster theatrics. This is about whether British democracy still functions, whether leaders actually listen to the people, or just lecture them. Whether your vote still means something, or if elections have become a hollow ritual that changes nothing. Walk down any British high street, not in London, not in the rich suburbs, but in ordinary towns where ordinary people live. Talk to them. Really listen. They'll tell you the same thing. Something fundamental is broken. And the people claiming they can fix it are the same ones who broke it in the first place. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about it. Is this the end of Labour's credibility? Can Starmer somehow claw his way back from this disaster? Do you still trust the establishment's promises, or are you ready to demand something entirely new? And here's the bigger question. What happens next? Because this story isn't finished, not even close. Labour is doubling down. Reform UK is gaining ground. The public is watching, waiting, and something's about to break. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back. Tell me what you really think is happening to this country. If you believe people deserve the truth without the media spin, hit that like button. And if you want more analysis that cuts through the noise and shows you what's really going on, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the next chapter of the story is already being written. The establishment is planning its next move, and you need to see it coming. Britain is standing at a crossroads. The direction we choose in the next few years will define this nation for generations to come. Your voice matters. Use it.